Hello, loves. Today I have compiled quite a few good stories. Let's get started. Story: a beautiful love story, unexpected twist at the end. Jake and Mia met under a blossoming cherry tree, where laughter and smiles exchanged like petals in the wind. Their eyes spoke volumes, and their hearts danced to the same beat. Through shared stories and stolen glances, a connection as beautiful as the setting sun bloomed between them. As days turned into weeks, they explored the city, hand in hand. Each alleyway, every cafe, and every museum held a new adventure, as if the world was waiting for their love to fill it. The way their fingers intertwined, an unspoken promise of togetherness. One chilly autumn evening, raindrops gently kissed their faces as they strolled along the riverbank. Seeking shelter, they found solace in an old bookshop. Inside, they discovered a hidden world, the pages of books telling tales of love, adventure, and dreams. Mia gifted Jake a leather-bound journal, a canvas for his thoughts and a testament to their love. He filled it with verses, expressing the depths of his affection. Mia, in turn, painted vibrant canvases, capturing the colors of their shared emotions. Seasons changed, but their love remained constant, like the North Star guiding sailors through the night. The snow-covered streets became their playground, as they embraced the warmth of each other's company. In the spring, a surprise picnic by a field of wildflowers, with a handmade bouquet as the centerpiece, marked a milestone in their journey. Jake's eyes sparkled with emotion, and Mia's laughter echoed like the sweetest melody. With time, their love deepened, transcending words. It was in the way they cared for each other, the way they supported dreams and wiped away tears. A connection so profound that no obstacle could break it. In a quaint chapel, surrounded by family and friends, Jake and Mia exchanged vows, sealing their love with a kiss. It was a celebration of a love story written in the stars, a tale that touched the hearts of all who witnessed it. Jake finally asked Mia a question that had been on his mind for a long time. He asked, "By the way, what is Mia short for?" Mia replied, "Oh, it's short for Michael." And so, their love story, like a timeless melody, continued to unfold, a testament to the enduring power of love, written in the language of their hearts. Story: how a 4-year relationship ended in a night. My 28-year-old fiance, 28-year-old, of 4.5 years recently called of our engagement after an argument about her college diploma. For context, we have been dating 4.5 years, and of that time we have been engaged 6 months. I proposed last January. From the day we met, she has been in school and originally was living with her family while she did just that. No job, no other responsibilities. Just school. That being said, as we progressed over time and she slowly began to spend less time at her family's house and more time with me, I became more responsible for our living expenses as she had no income other than financial aid a few times a year. Since I am active duty military, my housing is covered for the most part depending on location and rank, and I lived in a 1-bed 1-bath that was easy to incorporate her into when she'd come and visit for the weekend or so. About a year later, I bought my first house and had roommates, which made finances much easier. Additionally, she eventually got a part-time job which helped her cover her own expenses better and even offer some help with bills. However, for the most part one was still majorily responsible for our expenses as these part-time jobs never seemed to last, but I was okay with it because I loved her and believed I was helping her achieve her goal of a degree. Several years later, a few months ago we were having a discussion about moving on to base housing. I sold my house prior to moving for my next tour and have since been living in apartments again. For anyone who is unfamiliar with military terms, base housing is just as it sounds, a house in a neighborhood built within the perimeter of the base. Since our time together we got a dog, and often wished he could have a yard again for him. Additionally, we had some real close friends who also lived on base, and it would make our very frequent weekend BBQs much more enjoyable if we were able to just walk home rather than drive 30 minutes, not to mention more space, a guest room for friends and family to visit, just overall a better situation. There was a catch, however. In order to be eligible for base housing, we would need to be legally married. Something that is fairly common in military relationships, a courthouse-style wedding, although not always for the best reasons. Since we had already been engaged half a year, and I was due to deploy later on this year, holding off any real wedding planning, alongside her graduation coming in the fall, we had discussed the benefits of having a quick courthouse elopement prior to my deployment so I could share my service benefits with her, healthcare, family services, etc., and a huge plus was the pay raise, about 1K extra a month, that we had talked about saving and using for our actual wedding whenever we decided what we wanted to do. This wasn't the only time I had brought up progressing this way, as the benefits IMO greatly outweighed any risks. We had plenty of dialogue in the past as well that led me to believe she felt the same way, and in fact wanted to be official just as much as I did, aside from all the things discussed above. I brought it up casually as I usually would. A coworker had just told me about some openings in some of the nicer houses on base. I told her about them and she was very interested. I then went on to remind her that in order for us to apply, we would first need to be legally married. For the most part, one was the only one who ever brought this up, and it never really bothered me because up to this point I had no reason to believe she wanted anything different. Instead of seeming excited and willing to move forward, she began to complain about things like our marriage certificate being from a state she doesn't like, saying she'd now rather wait until we could go somewhere exotic and out of the country. This isn't something I was completely against, but it would defeat the purpose of all the reasons and benefits we had been discussing previously. I tried to reason with her, but I'll have to admit I was hurt. I was 100% willing to make this official and marry my best friend, benefits aside. I had partially hoped she'd match my energy there. Frustrated and confused, I began to seek answers. I wanted to know why I was openly 100% committed, and it felt like I wasn't getting the same in return. I began to ask for reasons or explanations on why I was feeling this way, and if there was something I was missing that may be holding her back. I remember specifically asking about school, because it was made clear in the very beginning of our relationship that school was above all the most important thing to her. To be clear, I also supported this. So much to the point where if she needed books and couldn't afford them, I ordered them for her. Her school was 100% online, so I was paying monthly for absolute screaming internet for her. I would work full days and come home and prepare dinner, grocery shop, clean, etc. You guys get it. I was her #1 fan, and supported her and loved her though all the failed exams, birthdays and events missed because she's in a group meeting, and constantly promoted positivity and clarity regarding any uncertainty about her degree plan and future. I was there and did everything I could. I am confident in that even as I type this now. When we got to this topic, I'll cut right to it. I asked her if she was hesitant because of anything to do with school or her upcoming graduation. This is where she told me that she hadn't really thought much of it, but now that she does, she doesn't want to get married prior to her graduation because she doesn't want my last name to be the one on her diploma. She told me that if it was that way, she felt as if it would take away from her and her accomplishments alone. She has been doubted before by other family, and if it didn't say her name it wouldn't feel as good to prove those doubters wrong. Something like that. This hit home, probably harder due to what felt like, rejection earlier on the legal marriage. All I was trying to do was ensure 1. She was taken care of while I'm away from home and can't help, and 2. Progress our relationship to what seemed like our next organic step and what had been mutually desired and agreed upon. This causes a huge argument, as she begins to label me as controlling for not seeing why it had to be her way, and we spent the entire night making attempts to show where we had been hurt by the other. Eventually we had made up, found common ground, enough to shower together and spend some close time in bed. Sadly, it wasn't enough. The next day she came home in tears, informed me that everything from last night wasn't sitting well with her, and that she was moving back home and calling off our engagement. I was handed back the ring and began to try to ask questions. What changed? I thought last night we were okay, etc. She told me she had nothing else to say to me, but through the tears and packing managed to look me in the eyes and say these last words: even if I realize I'm making the biggest mistake of my life, it is something I am going to live with because there's no coming back. She left me and our dog that night after taking everything she cared enough about and packing it into her car. It's been a few months since this all went down. All of this time has been no contact. I think it also needs to be said that I never expected her to have my last name on her diploma. It was something I never even thought about until the heat of the argument. I think what really got me, what really cut deep, was hearing her say her and her accomplishments alone, while looking me dead in my face like I haven't done shit to help her get there. Again, all Eve ever known her as was a student. I accepted the financial burden that was trying to build a life with someone in that stage of life. It was never about me expecting that, but I guess also I had believed that if the roles were reversed, if I were that student being taken care of single-handedly by this person I loved more than anything, said yes to marrying, knowing the sacrifices and difficulty of taking care of someone who can hardly maintain a part-time job, maybe I wouldn't try to act like I did this on my own. I was very yes-oriented. I made almost every important decision thinking of how it could help us or benefit us. I think I set myself up for failure assuming I would have that same level of commitment in return. I also know I took it much harder given circumstances, but never would have guessed it would tear apart a 4-year relationship for wanting to feel appreciated and recognized for IMO going above and beyond anyone else in her life to help her achieve her goal. Story: I cut ties with a longtime friend of mine because I couldn't keep the friendship anymore after an incident between us. Here's why. I never expected to find love in a place I dreaded, but life has a way of surprising us. The homeschool group was a last resort for my parents, a desperate attempt to find a community where I could thrive with academic freedom and find peers with whom I could be social. However, my initial experience was anything but positive. The people there were awful and shallow. Despite their claims of being Christian and inclusive, their structure mirrored a cult more than anything resembling Christ and His love. They certainly put the weird into the homeschool stereotype. Twice a week, I dragged myself to the group, dreading the interactions with my peers who seemed to find joy in excluding and ridiculing me. I only found solace in leaving the school day early and engrossing myself in a book as a distraction to avoid the coldness of the others. Yet amidst this sea of unkindness, there was one boy who stood out. He was tall, with thick black hair and piercing eyes that seemed to see right through the facade I put up to protect myself. His presence was a beacon of kindness in an otherwise hostile environment. I first noticed him when our eyes met in the hallway. There was something disarming about his gaze. It was soft, curious, and unlike the judgmental stares I had grown accustomed to. At first, I tried to ignore him. The negative impressions the entirety of the group left on me were too strong to allow any positive feelings to surface. Moreover, he shared the same name as someone who had been awful to me for years, a bitter reminder of past pain. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't help but notice him. He seemed to be everywhere I turned, always looking at me with those gentle eyes. He wasn't in my class, but he often found reasons to come into my classroom, goofing off with his friends. His antics were playful, his laughter infectious, and yet, he always seemed to be watching me. I would catch him staring, a soft smile playing on his lips. Despite noticing him, I refused to acknowledge my feelings. I buried them deep, convinced that falling for someone in this group would only lead to more heartache and hurt. Weeks turned into months without a word exchanged between us in person, but fate had other plans. We connected over social media, and soon we were texting every day. Those messages became the highlight of my day. We talked about everything, from our favorite movies and books to our dreams and fears. It felt like I had found a kindred spirit in the unlikeliest of places. Our late-night phone calls became a ritual. We would talk for hours, sharing stories and secrets, laughing and sometimes crying. I felt a bond growing between us, a connection that was deep and genuine. Yet, I still rejected his advances, effectively friend-zoning him. I was scared to let my guard down, scared to admit what I was falling for him. But he was patient, kind, and lovingly persistent. As we got to know each other, we shared more about our lives, our likes and dislikes, and our long-term goals. Surprisingly, we had much in common. We would pray together and for each other, and he showed me love in the most genuine, kind way without expecting anything in return. I was hooked, even if I didn't want to admit it. Eventually, I couldn't deny my feelings any longer. I confessed my love for him, and to my relief and joy, he felt the same. We began to date, albeit minimally, as we were both very young with strict parents. Our relationship was innocent and pure, built on a foundation of mutual respect and shared faith. Never had I experienced love the way he loved me. He listened to me attentively, with such care and genuine interest in what I had to say. He encouraged and comforted me through all the family issues that burdened me and always guided me toward Christ. Despite our apparent immaturity, our love was genuine and deep, and we were committed to growing together in our faith. Every moment with him felt like a gift, a precious memory to be cherished. His love gave me strength and hope, a light in the midst of my struggles. Our happiness, however, was short-lived. One day, he told me that his family had decided to move across the country. The news hit me like a ton of bricks, leaving me devastated and heartbroken. Despite our young age, I truly felt he was the one I was always meant to be with. Our connection was not based on infatuation or lust, but on a shared desire for and rootedness in the Lord. As if this news wasn't enough, girls around us, fueled by hatred and jealousy, started nasty rumors and began harassing me even more than they had before. The drama escalated, adding to the stress and pain I was already feeling. The combination of his impending move and the relentless harassment and lies from others broke us. I became bitter and devastated, fearing that I might never see him again. The days leading up to his move were a blur of sorrow and longing. We spent as much time together as we could, which ended up only being once, trying to make the most of the moments we had left. He held me close, whispering promises of staying in touch, but deep down, we both knew that things would never be the same. Then, the day came when he left. Him and his family, whom I had only met once but instantly fell in love with, were gone forever. Never before had I experienced such physical pain from immense sorrow. I felt my heart tearing apart. I had heard of people dying from heartbreak, and I fully believed this would be my fate. Compounding my grief was the fact that my home life was horrible, filled with constant fear and tension. My parents' arguments echoed through the house, and I lived in a constant state of anxiety. The sanctuary I once found in my room now felt like a prison. The weight of my sorrow was overwhelming, and I couldn't escape the pain. I fell into a deep depression, barely eating and working out an unhealthy amount to keep myself out of the house and away from my family. Exercise became my escape, a way to numb the pain and avoid the constant reminder of what I had lost. My phone, once a lifeline to him, now felt like a cruel reminder of the amazing man who was no longer in my life. I avoided it as much as possible, unable to bear the sight of our old messages and photos. For a time, bitterness consumed me. I was angry at the world, at my circumstances, and at the people who had driven us apart. But his wise character always shone through any clouds that loomed. Even in his absence, his influence remained. He had set the standard for what a man should be, for how I wanted to be treated, and for the type and level of connection I desired in a relationship. Despite our separation, I found myself speaking about him to everyone close to me. My entire circle knew of the amazing boyfriend who had sadly moved away. They knew of my sorrow, his sweetness and wisdom, and how, even in his absence, I remained in awe of him. I recounted our story countless times, each retelling solidifying his place in my heart. Years went by, and I tried to move on. I dated other people, but no one compared to him. No one could ever compare to him. Each new relationship felt like a pale imitation of what we had shared. I found myself constantly measuring others against the impossible standard he had set, and they always fell short. I tried to convince myself that I was being unrealistic, that I needed to let go of the past, but my heart wouldn't listen. Eventually, I settled and tried to make peace with the fact that I would never experience such perfection again. I met someone else, someone who was kind and seemingly loving, and I tried to build a future with him. We planned our lives together, a home, a family, future children. I loved him, but never as fully or deeply as I had loved the boy who had moved away. The spark, the connection, the profound understanding that I had shared with him was missing. As the years passed, I continued to cherish the memories of my first love. I realized that he had taught me invaluable lessons about love, faith, and resilience. His presence in my life, however brief, had left an indelible mark on my heart. Even though we were separated by distance and time, his influence remained, guiding me and shaping my understanding of what true love should be. In the quiet moments of reflection, I often found myself wondering what could have been. I imagined a parallel life where we had stayed together, growing and evolving side by side. But life had taken us on different paths, and I had to accept that. Still, the love we shared remained a cherished memory, a beacon of hope and a testament to the power of genuine, heartfelt connection. Then, I began being bombarded, nearly daily, by videos of interviews with the elderly. They were asked about their regrets and what they wished could have been different in their own lives. Many of them spoke about the one that got away. This struck me profoundly. These were people who had lived long, full lives, yet their eyes still held a glimmer of sadness and longing when they spoke of a love they had lost or let slip through their fingers. Watching these videos became a sobering ritual for me. Each story resonated deeply, like echoes of my own unspoken fears. The elderly men and women spoke with such raw honesty, recounting their lives filled with achievements, family, and adventures, yet always circling back to the one person they couldn't forget. They spoke of fleeting moments, missed opportunities, and the relentless passage of time that eventually solidified their regrets. It was in those quiet moments, listening to their heartfelt confessions, that I saw the path laid out before me. I knew that my future would mirror that of the elderly men and women in the interviews. The one that got away. I envisioned myself many years down the line, having accomplished my life goals in career, motherhood, monetary, and travel pursuits. I would have a successful career, a loving family, financial stability, and a wealth of experiences from around the world. Yet, despite these achievements, I knew a shadow of sadness would linger. At the end of my life, I would still feel a pang of unaccomplished longing, a void that success and fulfillment in other areas of life couldn't fill. I would have spent a lifetime not fully knowing or experiencing being loved in the way I had with him. I would miss the feeling of being witnessed by another, sharing the depth of my soul with someone who truly understood and reciprocated. The simple joys of life, appreciating the little things, laughing at inside jokes, and finding comfort in shared silence, would feel incomplete without him by my side. I imagined the unspoken conversations, the mutual understanding, and the sense of belonging that comes from being with someone who truly gets you. It was more than just love, it was about a profound connection, a partnership where we could indulge in life's beauty together. The thought of never experiencing that again filled me with a sense of preemptive sorrow. Little did I know, the Lord had a plan. The Lord always had a plan. In my moments of despair and longing, when the future seemed bleak and my heart felt heavy with regret, I had forgotten that my life was being guided by a higher power. The Lord's plan was always at work, weaving threads of hope and redemption through my story, even when I couldn't see it. The realization that my journey wasn't over, and that love and fulfillment could still be part of my future, began to dawn on me. Little did I know that I needed the time and experience with someone else to grow. In the aftermath of our separation, I found myself navigating through other relationships, each one serving as a lesson in patience, kindness, and love. However, I wasn't always the best version of myself in those relationships. There were moments when I said and did things I later regretted, moments that required excessive apologies and sincere efforts to make amends. It took those years away from my true love for me to realize the depth of my shortcomings and the areas in which I needed to grow. Through the heartache and challenges of those relationships, I gradually matured, not only as a partner but also as an individual. I learned to be more patient, more kind, and more caring, qualities that were essential for nurturing healthy and fulfilling connections. But perhaps the most significant growth occurred in my spiritual journey. It took time away from Him for me to truly rely on God, to surrender my fears and doubts, and to trust in His plan for my life. As I immersed myself in prayer and sought solace in my faith, I found strength and healing in His unwavering love. Yet, the path to spiritual and emotional growth was not without its obstacles. There were months and even years filled with heartache, sorrow, and betrayal, each one testing my resolve and challenging my faith. But through it all, I clung to the promise of redemption and restoration, believing that God's plan for me was greater than any setback or disappointment. Then, after 6 long, agonizing years, fate intervened once again. My love returned to the state in which I still lived. The mere thought of seeing him again filled me with excitement and hope, even if it meant that no romantic relationship would result from our reconnection. I prayed fervently, seeking God's guidance and surrendering to His will. In the 7th year of His absence, in the 7th year of waiting and longing, the Lord's will unfolded before me. It was as if the number 7, often associated with completion and perfection in biblical symbolism, held a profound significance in my journey. In that 7th year, my hopes and dreams, which had been held captive by time and circumstance, were finally realized. As I prepared to reunite with Him, I couldn't help but marvel at the mysterious ways in which God works. His timing, though often beyond our understanding, is always perfect. In those moments of anticipation and uncertainty, I found solace in the knowledge that His plan for me was unfolding exactly as it should. With each passing day, my faith grew stronger, my heart more steadfast in its trust in Him. And when the long-awaited reunion finally came to pass, I knew without a doubt that it was the culmination of God's divine plan for our lives. In the 7th year of His absence, the 7th year of my journey, I found completion in His grace and mercy. I didn't need to be with this man again to find joy and fulfillment. The mere prospect of reconnecting with Him, of having the opportunity to speak again after so many years apart, was enough to fill my heart with gratitude and happiness. I trusted that whatever the outcome, whether we rekindled our romance or simply remained friends, it would be according to God's perfect plan for our lives. As we reconnected and caught up on the years past and miraculous changes, we began to see the hand of divine intervention weaving through our lives. It was as if God had orchestrated every twist and turn, every moment of separation, to lead us back to each other. What a great and merciful God we serve! One of the first remarkable coincidences we noticed was how we had remained on each other's minds throughout the years apart. Despite only dating for a brief 5 months, He had occupied my thoughts for the entire 6 years we were apart. I found myself wondering about him, praying for him, and often pondering how he would respond to various situations life presented. And to my amazement, the feeling was mutual. He, too, had kept me close in his thoughts and had even considered me a standard for what he desired in a partner. Furthermore, the circumstances surrounding his unplanned and rapid move back paralleled my own reason for being single once again, safety concerns regarding the people we were living with. It was as if God had orchestrated our paths to align once more, removing the barriers that had kept us apart. Throughout the years of separation, there were also numerous uncanny occurrences that seemed to defy explanation. An influx of people with his exact name entering my life, so many that even my then-partner remarked on the frequency, knowing it reminded me of him. It was as though the universe was constantly reminding me of his presence, preparing me for our eventual reunion. The night before our long-awaited coffee meeting, I had a conversation with a friend about favorite scents. I described a particular scent that would occasionally waft by, a scent that inexplicably reminded me of home. Little did I know, my love and his roommate were having a similar discussion at the same time, discussing the importance of scent to women and how it often evokes feelings of comfort and familiarity. And when we finally met, as we embraced in a heartfelt goodbye, I unintentionally caught a whiff of his scent. It was the same scent I had described, his natural musk, the scent of home. After all those years, I had still remembered his scent. But perhaps the most inexplicable and profound connection we shared was the instant understanding we had of each other. It went beyond mere attraction or physical appearance. It was as if we could read each other's minds. Countless times, he would, and still does, look at me without saying a word, and I would know exactly what he was thinking. Our minds were in sync, our souls intertwined in a way that defied explanation. In those moments, it became clear that our reunion was not just a coincidence or stroke of luck. It was a testament to the power of divine intervention, guiding us back to each other and reaffirming that our love was meant to be. As we marveled at the intricacies of our journey, we knew that our connection was nothing short of miraculous, a beautiful testament to God's unwavering love and grace. As we reconnected and delved deeper into the tapestry of our shared history, we were met with a treasure trove of small yet profoundly meaningful coincidences that seemed to serve as the delicate threads binding our hearts together. One such enchanting coincidence was the fact that I had unwittingly set all my passcodes to be his phone number. It was a simple act done without much thought many years before, but it carried a weight of significance that resonated deeply within me. His digits became my digital touchstone, a constant reminder of his presence in my life, even as the tides of time ebbed and flowed. In return, he adorned his world with symbols of me, incorporating my favorite color into his artwork like strokes of love painted across a canvas. Each was a testament to the enduring bond we shared, a vibrant reminder of the beauty that blossomed from our connection. But the symphony of serendipity didn't end there. It seemed that the universe conspired to sprinkle our path with moments of enchantment, weaving its magic through the fabric of our lives. License plates bearing the insignia of the state to which he had journeyed appeared with astonishing frequency, like gentle whispers from afar beckoning me closer to him. My mother, attuned to the significance of these chance encounters, captured them in photographs, each image a snapshot of the enduring connection that transcended distance and time. As we embraced our reunion, we discovered even more delightful nuances that mirrored the depth of our connection. From sharing favorite flavors of candy to speaking the same love languages, every revelation served to deepen the bonds of affection that bound us together. Our souls danced in synchrony, moving in perfect harmony as if choreographed by the hand of fate itself. Even in the minutiae of everyday life, we found echoes of our shared history and a reaffirmation of the enduring love that had weathered the storms of separation. Simple habits, like folding pizza before indulging in its cheesy delight or meticulously balancing eggs in the carton, became cherished rituals imbued with layers of meaning that spoke volumes about the depths of our connection and similarities. In each of these small moments and subtle gestures, we found solace and joy, knowing that our love was not just a fleeting emotion but a timeless bond ordained by God on high. As we marveled at the beauty of our shared journey, we knew that every twist and turn had led us to this moment of sweet reunion, where our hearts beat as one in perfect harmony. In the gentle embrace of our reunion, as we basked in the warmth of each other's presence, the air seemed to hum with a sense of sweet anticipation. Every moment spent together felt like a precious gift, a chance to rediscover the depths of our connection and explore the mysteries of our intertwined destinies. Amidst the tapestry of remarkable coincidences that seemed to adorn our reunion, there was one revelation that shimmered with a brilliance all its own. It was the tender caress of his lips upon mine, the gentle brush of his fingertips against my skin, that stirred within me a longing I had never known before. For in the embrace of his kiss, I discovered a depth of passion and desire that had eluded me in the arms of others. It was as if every kiss was a symphony of emotions, each tender touch a testament to the profound connection that bound us together. In his arms, I found solace, comfort, and a sense of completeness that I had searched for in vain elsewhere. And as our lips met in a dance of longing and love, I knew with unwavering certainty that the tender touch of him was all I ever truly desired. With each passing day, our bond deepened, blossoming like a delicate flower in the light of newfound love. We embarked on the journey of rediscovery, peeling back the layers of time to reveal the tender shoots of affection that had taken root in our hearts. Every shared laugh, every stolen glance, became a testament to the enduring strength of our love, a love that had withstood the test of time and emerged even stronger on the other side. As we navigated the complexities of rekindled romance, we found solace in the knowledge that our love was not just a fleeting emotion but a steadfast anchor in the tumultuous sea of life. We leaned on each other for support, drawing strength from the deep well of affection that flowed between us. Together, we faced the challenges of the present and the uncertainties of the future with unwavering courage and boundless optimism. In the quiet moments of togetherness, as we held hands and watched the world go by, we marveled at the beauty of our shared journey. Every twist and turn, every obstacle overcome, had led us to this place of profound contentment and unbridled joy. And as we gazed into each other's eyes, we knew with certainty that our love was not just a chance encounter but a divine gift, bestowed upon us by a benevolent Creator who had woven our paths together with threads of destiny and purpose. As I reflect on our journey, I'm overwhelmed with gratitude for the unexpected twist fate has brought. Our love story, once interrupted, has found its way back into the light. It's a testament to the resilience of love, the power of divine intervention, the beauty of second chances, and a demonstration of God's perfect timing. Our reunion isn't just a chance encounter, it's a reaffirmation of the bond we share, a bond that time and distance could never sever. It's a reminder that love, when nurtured, cherished, and rooted in Christ, has the capacity to transcend all obstacles and reunite kindred souls. As I look to the future with Him by my side, I'm filled with hope and anticipation for the chapters yet to unfold. Together, we'll continue to write our love story, embracing each moment with gratitude and joy. And though our journey may have had its interruptions, I'm certain that the best is yet to come. Our forever seemingly interrupted, but never forgotten. Our love story continues, stronger and more vibrant than ever before. And as we embark on this next chapter together, I'm grateful for the twists and turns that have led us back into each other's arms. In the end, our love may have been interrupted, but it will never truly be lost. For true love, agape love, like faith, is eternal, transcending time and space to unite us in the bonds of everlasting love. And so, I will hold on to the memories of our time apart, cherishing each moment as a reminder of the strength of our connection. Together, we'll write the next chapter of our love story, embracing the future with open hearts and unwavering faith in Jesus. And as we journey forward hand in hand, I know that our love will endure, forever and always. Story: My boyfriend left me on the side of the road at 2 in the morning, 4 hours from my house. This story is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. I, 21 years old, was dating my now ex-boyfriend, 23 years old, for the last year. Let's call him James. James and I met at college and he graduated last year. I'm still in school. He recently moved up to the city I live near, which was exciting because he lived about 3.5 hours away previously. He moved for a new job he got after being fired from his previous one. Red flag, I know. We had plans to go to a concert in a city about 4 to 5 hours away. We decided to make a day of it and intended to sleep at his family's house, which was a 45 to 60-minute train ride from the venue and was where he had just moved from, so it was familiar. We parked at the train station instead of his family's house, assuming we'd be sober by the time we got back from the concert. I am not from this area and he is, so he took the lead on trains and transportation to and from the venue. He got us into the city only to realize he put us on the wrong train and we'd have to take multiple subway rides to get to where we wanted to go. I have chronic migraines and am prone to passing out, which he knows, so I had originally offered to figure out all the train situations to avoid subways because I knew I couldn't handle the environment. He assured me he had it. He did not. I passed out in the subway on a long, broken escalator he made me walk down instead of finding another, and a stranger caught me because he had walked too far ahead to notice what happened. He didn't even realize I had passed out, he thought I was just a bit overwhelmed. Finally, we got to the venue, almost 2 hours later than intended. I eventually took over train directions and got us there as he couldn't seem to get a handle on it. The concert was fun, except he got upset when I talked to anyone that wasn't him. The artist we saw is known for fostering a nice environment where people make friends and everyone gets along well. He didn't like the scene, and he refers to not liking a scene whenever it's a queer space. This night was when I finally pieced that correlation together. As someone who's bisexual, it's definitely a problem, and seeing him act that way so blatantly was really upsetting. It's okay if he doesn't want to befriend people, but he specifically didn't want to befriend people because they were queer. After the concert, I asked him if he'd figured out the trains for the way home, as my phone was dead and I couldn't figure it out. He had not. We proceeded to walk the streets of this major city for 2 hours. He put us on 4 wrong trains and kept getting us farther and farther from where we needed to go. The entire time we were on the trains, he was texting his misogynistic brother about how I didn't spend enough time with him, what a bitch I am, and how I'm holding him back. I broke down at one point and was pretty upset with him because it was 1 a.m. at this point. The concert let out of 11, and we were nowhere near his house. I begged him to call an Uber, said I would pay for it, and when he wouldn't, I just sat down on the sidewalk and said I couldn't do the trains anymore. He finally got an Uber at the promise of me Venmoing him when my phone turned on. We got back to his family's house around 2 a.m. I had fallen asleep in the Uber ride back to his house for about 15 minutes and was much more sobered up by the time we got there, as I wasn't very intoxicated to begin with. I have medication I absolutely have to take or I will be incapacitated the next day. It was left in my bag in his car that was at the train station because he had presumed we'd be taking the train back. I should have brought some with me, but it never crossed my mind that we wouldn't make it back to his car. I told him I'd just Uber there and go get it if I could use his keys to get in. He said no, took his dad's keys, and drove his car to the parking lot. Looking back, he was nowhere near sober and should not have been driving. When we pulled into the parking lot, he looked at me and decided this was the moment to tell me he didn't want to be together. He started crying and getting self-deprecating, telling me he's a terrible person and a liar. This isn't the first time he's done this. He usually acts like this when I'm upset with him to get out of the argument with no resolution. I originally tried to comfort him, and then he started yelling. I attempted to de-escalate the situation and told him it was fine if he didn't want to be together, but could we please talk at his house? He said I was no longer welcome at his house because he didn't want to deal with the discomfort, presumably of having me over after shit-talking me to his brothers. We went back and forth for a bit, and eventually, I just asked him what I was supposed to do. I just asked one final time, "Is this how you want this to end?" He said yes. He said he doesn't love me and he doesn't want me in his house with his dad and brothers. I just nodded, got my stuff out of his car, and left. It was pouring rain and my phone was dead. It was 2:30 in the morning and I was in the only sketchy part of his hometown. I went into the parking garage across the street because it was pouring rain. There were loud Dodge Chargers circling past me repeatedly. Multiple men came up to me in their cars and offered for me to get in their cars, and one man got out and attempted to coax me into his car, only backing away when I lied and said I was on the phone with the police. I eventually got my phone to turn on to 3% out of some luck and called my mom. She woke up the only family member nearby, who is elderly and lives 30 minutes away, and got me an Uber to their house. She called James, who had turned his phone off, and his father, who did not reply. My phone died in the Uber. Fortunately, the driver was kind and got me to the family member's house safely. The next morning, nothing from him to myself or my mom. His dad had texted me asking if I was okay. That was it. Our relationship had been rocky, but there was literally no circumstance that would validate this situation. I told my friends and our mutual friends the whole story, and they all immediately removed him from everything and cut him off. Being away from him, despite the circumstances, has been really awesome for me though. I get to put time into myself and I didn't realize how much I did for him. I found his apartment, car, and job for him because he said he didn't know how to. I introduced him to my friends and family and welcomed him into my world. He really just wanted me to be at his beck and call and there 100% for him. As soon as I told him I was doing things to take care of myself, He snapped because earlier the day of the concert, I told him about the gym I joined and the diet I was on to better my physical and mental health. I think that's it. Scary situation, but it went the best way it could've. He told one of our mutual friends he hoped one day we could get back together after he worked on himself. I'll pass on those delusions, though. Story, First Love Theory. I'm 19 years old, and I'm still in love with a guy I barely talked to in the summer of 10th grade. For starters, I'm just coming on this to get it out of my system. For some background information, I met this guy who was in one of my classes right before summer started. Prior to this, I had never been in a real relationship, mostly because I think high school relationships are a waste of time and a way to break your perception of love. I had always been asked out by guys, which I thought was weird because I didn't see myself as this amazingly beautiful person. I thought I was in the middle and stuck with it because, generally, I don't care. But often, people would ask me out, and I would say no every single time. In June, towards the end of school, I started talking to this guy, which was surprising for me because I don't do talking stages, but he wanted to get to know me, so I actually said yes. We started talking, and I wasn't really sure if I even liked him, but many were surprised that we were talking because he was really well known or popular among specific people at school, and I kind of kept to myself. Our convos in text would be pretty unresponsive because I avoided talking to him, and the few times I did talk to him in person, I said all the wrong things. For example, once I said it's good that we have one class together, he said no, we have two, and I argued, but he was right, so basically, I didn't know much about the guy. But he was kind, understanding, and really liked me. As I talked to him more, I realized he was quite different from most of his awful friends. Flash forward to summer starting. He always wanted to see me, but I always made excuses because, for starters, I have avoidant attachment issues, and second, I was afraid. But he was quite understanding. Sooner or later, things got pretty dry, and we stopped talking. The last time we talked, I intended to make plans, but that was a lie because I was actually in the hospital for reasons he would not understand. Part of the reason why I stopped talking to him was because his life was perfect. He had a loving family and people who surrounded him with unconditional love and support, and I had the complete opposite. Although we were similar as people, we were that much different in our own lives, so I left. After a week, I thought I'd be okay, but I wasn't. I felt aching heart pain. I did not know what it was. I kept thinking that I've been through so much awful shit in my life, so why does this even matter? I found myself missing everything about him, so I texted him in August, but there was no response. So then I decided to remove him from my social media. I felt like an idiot because I would not feel this way if I hadn't talked to him and played it smart like I always do. Going forward, I went back to school and found out he was in a relationship. I hated seeing him every day. It hurt me so bad knowing he'd never like me the way I liked him. What's funny is that he wanted me first. My mind was always on him. I'd talk to my friends and pretend I was talking to him. When it got to the point where I would just try to avoid him, I still saw him. I went to the fair. I saw him there. I went to the movies. I saw him there. It was just not fair. It felt like I was being punished. He was always there with his girlfriend. Although I never felt insecure, I just kept thinking about how good things could have been if I didn't sabotage my own happiness. It got to a point where everything in my life was so messed up, and every time I was hurt, I'd think about him to feel better. I just kept reminding myself how I've been through worse than most people I know, so I thought I would get over this, but I never did. I felt like Kevin when he wasn't around. Through this whole thing of a war within myself, I never let him know because, even though it was hard, I wanted to preserve respect for myself. If I told him all this, it would be a whole different story, but he'll never know. Although that hurts, I think I'm content with it. To this day, I think about him and hurt. Sometimes, when things go wrong in my life, all I think about is him and the comfort he gave me. I've always been the girl to be there for my friends and pick them up and give them motivation by telling them all the hardships in my life that also help them keep going, but I'd never had someone to make me feel like that until I met him. It's been so long, and I don't think my love ever died down or changed. Story, it's a love story. The following is the story of how me, 29M, and my wife, 30F, met and married. Like many other people, my freshman year of college was a roller coaster of emotions. Between adapting to a new life and schedule, trying to make new friends, and the unexpected death of my father. Things were changing fast for me, and I was struggling to be my normal, extroverted, happy self. I became involved with a ministry in college, and this helped me find like-minded people who I could not only laugh with, but also have the ability to openly talk about my struggles. My wife was also involved in this same ministry. Over time we would have discussions, but nothing too in-depth or serious. We were friendly to each other, but never anything more than that. Flash forward 2 years and we begin to hang out more and more because of a reason I'll touch on later, and we became really great friends. This would not last long, sadly, as my wife was about to travel the world for the next 2 years doing ministry work in third world countries. When I say doing ministry work, I do not mean she was hanging at resorts 6 days a week and visiting an orphanage for an hour or so. She was truly in the trenches, spending her years in remote villages where they don't have access to electricity or running water. While she was on this trip, she didn't have the ability to talk often, but whenever given the chance, I would talk to her about her stories, and this is where I began to truly fall in love with her. There was only one small problem. See, the reason we began to hang out more and more prior to her leaving was because she began dating a close friend of mine. While she was away on this mission trip, my friend became getting extremely close with another girl. They would hang out regularly one-on-one, openly cuddle each other around others, but according to my friend, nothing more than that. I spoke with my friend about this relationship and how he was emotionally cheating, but he never listened or paid any attention. I felt it wasn't my place to tell my wife about this, because I believed my feelings that I was developing for my herb scared me from being unbiased. After years away, my wife finally returns home. Within a month of being home, my wife's friends told her about the relationship between my friend and this other girl. My wife was aware that they were friends, but she was not aware to the extent of how close they truly were. This led my wife to immediately breaking up with my friend. Now, you're probably thinking to yourselves, wow, this is great news for OP. You have to remember, the reason we became close was because she was dating a friend. Also, as my wife returned from her mission trip, I had freshly graduated college and moved 3 hours away, back to my hometown, to begin a career. I also believed in my mind that my wife was only friends with me because of the relationship she had with my friend. Nevertheless, occasionally I would travel to the college town and meet up with some college friends. When doing this, I would ask them how my wife was doing. They would always keep me updated, and eventually a mutual friend tells my wife that I have been asking how she was. This sparks our friendship as she begins texting me, but still, I lived 3 hours away, so I had no intention of beginning a relationship with her, but it was still nice to be friends again. My wife, being her caring self, began fostering a 2-month-old girl about a year after coming back from her mission trip. She did this while single and working a full-time job. Years pass and I am extremely displeased living in my hometown. See, my father was a small town hero type of guy. Very well known and very loved. I worked hard to bring positive change in my community, but I felt every action I did I was always compared to my dad. People never meant to offend me by comparing me to my father, but I always felt like if I stayed there I was going to be living in his shadow. I wanted to forge my own legacy. One day I interviewed for a job in the town I went to college in. Somehow, I get hired. Over the summer I move back and immediately I am excited for a multitude of reasons. Soon after moving back my wife and I begin spending a lot of time together. The 2-month-old girl is now 3 years old, and my wife and I do the silly thing and get married within 3 months of me moving. This became the greatest decision of my life. Since getting married my wife and I have adopted the girl, made a few kids of our own, bought a house, and are truly living the fairy tale life. We've been married for several years and life couldn't be better. I tell this story because I want others to know you never know who the love of your life is. It could be a stranger, a friend, or a friend's girlfriend. This world is too short and crazy. If you made it this far, I hope you enjoyed the read. This is my first time ever really making a Reddit post. Story: The Love Story of a Friend. I couldn't sleep, so I thought it'd be a good idea to walk to the park and stare at the sky. So there I was, in my yellow t-shirt and blue shorts, reaching my destination. There I saw her, looking at the sky with ginger red hair coming down her shoulders and blue eyes glittering in the moonlight. It was Laura from my class. Her gaze shifted from the sky to me. "What are you doing here, this late at night, Aiden?" she asked. I never talked to her at school. She's one of the quiet kids in class. This is the first time I'm hearing her voice. And she usually wears glasses at school, but she wasn't wearing them right now. I took a seat beside her. "What are you doing here?" I looked her in the eyes. She shifted her gaze back up to the sky. "The moon's pretty. I always come here at around this time, every single night for stargazing." I looked up at the sky. "I couldn't sleep, so I came here," she giggled. "You couldn't sleep, so you came here to stargaze? Will that help you fall asleep?" "Well, what about you? Why are you always coming here?" I asked. "Like I said, I always come here, because I get bored and sometimes because I can't sleep. It's dangerous here, you know? You could get kidnapped or something." We chatted a bit and had fun. "Why do you not talk like this at school?" I asked. She shrugged. "I guess I don't like socializing. I'm shy and don't have friends to talk to." "Then how come you're able to talk to me?" "Well, something tells me that I can trust you." She smiled. "Well, see you at school tomorrow." "Good night." We both went home next day. I was walking to my class when I saw Laura and a bunch of other girls surrounding her. I saw one of them slap her and throw her glasses onto the floor. They walked away. I was running toward her. "Are you okay?" "Why did they do that?" I asked as I picked up her glasses and put them on her. "I'm fine. I'm used to it." "Thanks." She quickly rushed away. It was lunchtime and I saw Laura by herself. I walked to her and sat at her table. "Why are you joining up with me?" she asked with concern. "Is it against the law to sit with you? You seem lonely." I asked with a smile. "People call me a witch because of my red hair." "I hate this red hair. I think your hair is pretty." She looked at me and smiled. "Thank you. I knew I could trust you." I suddenly had an idea. "Hey, wanna go out on a date tomorrow?" "Are you confessing?" "No, it's just for fun." I guess I can go the following day. I met up with her at a cafe. We were sipping coffee. We talked a lot and had loads of fun. Shopping, restaurants, and then we decided to go to a movie. After we finished the movie, it was already night time. Gosh, it's already 10. I've got to go home soon, I said, looking at my phone. Can we sit at the park and look at the stars for a few minutes? Laura asked. Yeah, sure. You sure do love stargazing. We sat next to each other on a bench in the park. We both looked up at the bright crescent moon. I looked at Laura from the corner of my eye. She was completely fascinated. She caught me looking at her and smiled. She leaned against my shoulder and put her hand on mine. I like you, Aiden. She gave me a peck on the lips. Sorry, I didn't mean to dash. I leaned over, took her glasses off and locked my lips onto hers. She was surprised, but she put her arms around my neck. I put my hands on her cheeks, and we kissed. That was my first kiss, Laura said, blushing. I've really fallen for you. I hugged her. I've fallen for you too. Here's your second kiss. We kissed again. Bye and see you again in the next videos and stories.